Well, the political mudslinging surrounding the disgrace of the former chairman of the Co-op Bank, Paul Flowers, shows no signs of abating. As Nick Clegg, the Deputy Prime Minister, attacked Labour's relationship with the Methodist minister turned banker on his weekly radio phone-in today, our business correspondent Siobhan Kennedy caught up with the Shadow Chancellor, Ed Balls. She began by asking if he planned to return the £50,000 donation from the Co-op, which Mr Flowers says he personally authorised.
As far as I'm concerned, as I said, I've never spoken to Mr Flowers about it. As it happens, I've never had a meeting with Mr Flowers, I've never had a phone call with Mr Flowers, I've never had an email with him. I've been present at a couple of dinners he's been at. He goes to a Treasury Select Committee and tries to claim he was somehow, you know, a mediator between the Co-op group and me over this money. It is untrue.
Does it not sit uncomfortably with you that on the one hand you see fit to suspend him because of the revelations, but on the other you're comfortable to keep the 50,000? Do you not think you should do it?
No, I don't actually. I think that is not the point or the issue. It was a totally public donation made by the group. They decided it because we share the same values, and I'm not going to allow it. Look, Paul Flowers is not going to undermine, in my view, 150 years tradition of the cooperative movement or this very important thing, the Co-op group, and I'm not going to play along with that.
He was a councillor for Labour for 10 years and then resigned under embarrassing circumstances, was found to have inappropriate pornographic material. Why did senior Labour figures not know about that?
Well, it's a good question. I mean, the reality is that neither Ed Miliband or I, or as far as I know, anybody else in the Labour leadership knew anything about these allegations about Mr Flowers until recent days, and he's been suspended. But of course...
Should you not have done, though? Well, he was a decade-long Labour councillor to have been forced out under those embarrassing circumstances.
Look, it's a legitimate question. Should we have known about that? We didn't. However, he was the chair of the Co-op Bank. He was being regulated by the regulator. Throughout this period, since he stopped being a councillor, he has met regularly with Conservative Treasury ministers because George Osborne and the Treasury and the regulator were all trying to get Mr Flowers and his institution to buy 600 Lloyds branches. So the bigger question here for this investigation is, where was the regulator? Where were Treasury ministers? How were they asleep on their watch for the last 2 years?
But you're speaking so vehemently against it now, as if it was something that would have been obvious, or should have been obvious.
If I had known the Co-op Bank was in the financial situation it was, or if officials had come to me, having done due diligence to tell me about Mr Flowers' track record, would I have rung an alarm bell? Absolutely.
During the Labour leadership campaign, you spoke of how proud you were of your role in the merger of Britannia and Co-op. It's really the union of the two that's brought the Co-op down. Are you still proud of that role today?
Well, I played no role at all in that merger.
But Mr Flowers sat in front of the Treasury Select Committee and said that you were extremely encouraging of the deal and implied very much that you were backing that deal and it had your encouragement.
Well, I can say...
He linked you with the deal.
Of course he did. And I can say to you categorically that I never had a conversation with Mr Flowers or anyone else before, during or immediately after the deal between the Co-op Bank and Britannia. And Mr Flowers clearly says, believes and does many things, not all of them of good repute. But
so you think he was just using your name because yours is a good name to use?
Well, it's not true.
Ed Balls talking to Siobhan Kennedy. We did ask the Conservatives for a response on the Paul Flowers issues, but no one was available.